When we say the sugar show, it sounds kind of sweet, but this isn't sweet.
Nothing sweet about it.
Yeah, this is going to be some ugly facts and
Yes.
scary things. We're not trying to scare you into anything. We just want to make you aware. Hi, welcome back to Sweeteners and Dr. I'm Dr. Tammy.
I'm Dr. Debbie.
We have a great show for you today, the Sugar Show.
It's a war on sugar.
It is a war on sugar, and it makes it sound like when we say sugar show that it's going to be sweet, but it's not going to be
very
sweet. So we want to wake you up a little bit to some of the issues that come around sugar. Everyone knows that we eat too much sugar. Everyone says, I know, when they come in the office, they're like, I know I eat too much sugar. So, what do you do about that? Because getting through that process of getting the sugar at least decreased in your diet, we all feel very disempowered. And I think a reason we feel disempowered is because it's everywhere. We're exposed to it everywhere.
Yeah, unknowingly, often.
Yeah.
The amount of sugar you think you're taking in is far less than what you're actually taking in.
Yeah, absolutely. And the food industry has been very wily about it. And there's something called the bliss point, which actually the food industry does testing to watch sales go up in a graph. And they will actually mark the point of how much added sugar they put in where people buy the most.
An addiction component.
An addiction component for sure. So it's not your fault in a lot of ways. And, when you have insulin resistance and other things going on in your body, hormones, I always have to talk about hormones. The addiction, the hormones speak louder than your willpower. And so if you don't have the awareness, it's going to be really hard to be empowered.
Put your physiology on your side.
For sure. So this is kind of some scary statistics. 1/3 of the people in this country are insulin resistant. And some of the things we're going to talk about on the show today is what is insulin resistance. You've probably heard of it. You've heard of diabetes. So if we scare you about diabetes, that might be actually not a bad thing, because 1 in 3 people are insulin resistant, but 1 in 20 people actually have full-blown diabetes.
Right.
So we don't want that. I always tell my son, if you don't want to get the finger sticks, you got to watch it now.
Watch it.
So in the 1800s, the average person had 45 grams of sugar a day. Today in 2021, we have 300 grams of sugar a day. And we're going to demystify that, because people are like, what's a gram? We don't even, one of the ways they trick us is we don't even use grams in the USA, right? We
That's a
use
good point.
we don't use the metric system. So they're trying to trick us on every level, because what the heck is a gram? And so here's a little visual. We used to have the little pink bags, the CNH, but now we have the Always Save. But we used to consume one of these a year, or two if we were a little bit, over.
Right.
We consume 72 of these a year per person.
Oh my goodness.
That's a lot of sugar. So we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the problems with sugar and what you can do to take your power back. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to The Naked Doctor. I'm Dr. Tammy.
And I'm Dr. Debbie.
We have a great show. We are talking about sugar,
Sugar.
but not the sweet.
Not
We know it's sweet, but not the sweet aspects
the
of
effects
it.
are not sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. So we all love sugar. And I, just in full, disclosure and transparency, I eat sugar.
Sure.
But I'm also very aware of how much sugar I eat and when I eat it. And I think of it like a bank account. It's like you credit debit. And
Right.
so it's like, oh, I've had this much sugar, so I'm going to think, is it worth it? Is it worth it to make that withdrawal right there, that
Right now.
day old donut that's sitting there that,
Sometimes seems like it might be, but
Yeah.
you gotta be mindful.
Yeah, I'm going to save that up for, something at dinner or something. Yeah. So insulin resistance, we got to talk about that just a little bit, because when we talk about sugar crashes and some of the things we're going to talk about, how you know you have a problem with sugar, which we probably all do, but insulin is the hormone, back to hormones, that stores sugar. So we're going to talk about some strategies too, how you can minimize the way it gets stored as fat. But insulin is released in response to sugar to move it out of the bloodstream, because I always say the bloodstream is very, when sugar's in there, it's very erosive. That's why diabetics get amputations and heart disease and all that stuff too.
A lot of inflammation from sugar.
Yeah.
Metabolism.
Yeah. It's eating you from the inside out, really. And so we're wired to have some carbohydrates. It's instant energy. It's just, are we supposed to have 72 of these a year?
Once.
Yeah, at once. Yeah. So there's some problems that you might not be aware of. I just kind of jotted some down so I could remember them. One of the biggest ones is that I'm a very vain girl, I admit it, but wrinkles.
Absolutely.
And being 52, I'm like thinking about wrinkles, right? And all the aspects of that, and aging, and, feeling your best from the inside out as well. But there's a process called glycation, where the sugar actually breaks down the collagen in the skin.
Right. Premature destruction of the cells and accelerated aging just from the inflammation of the sugar.
And who wants that?
Not me at 59.
You're so much younger at heart than me. Your biological age is probably like 12.
Oh, thank you.
Oh.
I think.
Yeah. So, and you can only imagine, there's collagen everywhere in your body, from your urethra to incontinence and all the things you see with aging too. And the little telomeres on the DNA, all that's affected by all those protein breakdowns. So it's everywhere in your body too. Obesity, of course, but cellulitis. I really noticed that, well, two things. The more sugar I eat, the more bumpies I get on the back of my butt. Who wants that? But I also noticed more aches and pains from the inflammation.
Right.
I will know, walking up my stairs in the morning, I was like, what did I eat yesterday? I have to really think about that.
And often it's not something, like you said, like a donut or a cookie. Sometimes it's just too many carbohydrates that convert rapidly into sugars, like pasta, white bread.
Sure.
A lot of things we eat, conveniently they're white, so you can
Identify them.
But yeah, white flour and that sort of thing. That also causes that inflammation conversion to sugar. So you can feel it.
Yeah, for sure. So yeast can cause all sorts of illnesses and problems in the body, between the bacteria and the yeast, overgrowth yeast. We've associated that with different kinds of cancers as well, immune system problems. So all sorts of chronic skin infections and inflammations and things like that can be yeast problems. I had a lady not too long ago, and she had candida levels, the highest titers I've ever seen. She'd had GI problems for years, and nobody had ever thought to check a candida level.
Right.
She just ate up with it.
She was a petri dish.
Yeah. So we got her on some antifungals and some natural things to help combat that too. And she's like, this is the first time in my life I felt normal.
Right. Do you utilize food sensitivity testing for this sort of thing as well?
For sure.
Like
because,
with yeast?
Yeah. There's lots of foods with yeast in
Absolutely.
it too. And not everybody has a problem with it, but it's nice to do the testing and identify that. So yeah, absolutely. And we do that in the office too. So that's good to check that. Alzheimer's disease. We now know that that's a type 3 diabetes. It's a sugar utilization in the brain, which also goes along with brain fog. When you eat a lot of sugar and you get really tired and you have that crash, but just that chronic brain fog. So, it happens on every level, and you can only have that brain fog and those memory lapses so long before it's total memory shutdown.
Right. It seems to be twofold. There's more awareness, people noticing and knowing to say, I have brain fog and that sort of thing. And then also, I think that, and we've spoken about this before, but the push to decrease fats, which usually means that you increase carbohydrates, increase sugar, I think that's contributed a lot to increase in this brain fog and perhaps even Alzheimer's and things of that nature. We've got our diet flipped, certainly from other countries in the world, you know.
Yes, the low fat was all the fat, and it's just really hurt us on so many
Our brains
levels.
need cholesterol. They don't really need all that sugar, a little bit.
Think about the food industry, because it all goes back to the food industry. To me, it's very interesting. If they can take fat out of certain foods, it lasts longer. You know, a loaf of bread from the store is like a loaf of bread 2 weeks later, sometimes longer. But when you make bread at home with all the fats and everything in it, it goes bad within a couple days.
Exactly right.
And there are bad fats. You know, there's the saturated, and we want the unsaturated fats. But definitely we want to have that balance with the sugar and the fats. Heart disease, there's something called G6P, which is a sort of a glycation like happens in the collagen, but it specifically targets the heart muscle. So things like heart failure and things like high blood pressure and any kind of heart disease.
Valvular disorders, things of that nature. You're weakening all the connective tissues by this process.
Yeah, and you in anesthesia every day, you see any kind of weakened heart.
I see a lot of diabetes, that's for sure.
Yeah.
In our population, and our state's probably not completely unique to that either.
Yeah, surgery complications and things. It's just, we know that's going to be worse.
Healing is poor, things of that nature too. You know, post-operatively, it's a problem.
We talked about brain fog, which also goes along with mood and depression as well. Who would associate, because we think, oh, it's our comfort food, it makes us feel better. But it doesn't.
It really doesn't.
You know, maybe if you ate healthy and every once in a while you had a cupcake because you had a bad day,
It'd be a treat.
it'd be a treat. And we talked about that on one of our other shows about kids getting treats for reward and
Yeah, for academic reward or being good reward.
get a soda. Didn't you say your son got a soda for
got sodas for
making
reading
good
books.
grades? Yeah,
For reading books.
Reading books. Here's your soda.
Gosh, I don't know if I want you to read so much.
And, you know, there's lots of things like thyroid problems because insulin and cortisol and thyroid all compete as well. So we get a lot of folks that come in and we have to have the thyroid conversation. So that can be a big thing.
Right.
Names of sugar, things you might not think of that are kind of hidden. So if you see something like caramel or cane juice, I mean, we all know glucose is sugar, but things like lactose, maltodextrin. I mean, they use these big words to kind of hide it in there. Rice syrup, sorbitol, grape sugar, galactose, any kind of fruit concentrates in there are going to have sugar in them. Corn syrups, of course, high fructose corn syrups, very bad. Anything that has like a cane juice or dextrin or dextrose, they use those big words. Lactose, milk is a big thing with the lactose sugar. So, you know, it's funny because people think, well, I'll have milk or orange juice. And really, that's not good. No. So one of the things, you know, we talked about how many grams of sugar. If you're trying to stay less than 25 or 30 grams of sugar and you think, well, I'll be healthy and I'll have some apple juice. Or how many times do we put apple juice in baby bottles?
Right.
You know, and we think we're doing them a favor. There are 28 grams of sugar per serving in this, and then there are 8 servings in this whole thing. So this isn't a real big thing, but almost 30 grams of sugar per cup of apple juice that you have. So
just eat the apple.
And all your body before you are in trouble is 25 to 30 grams a day. 1 cup of apple juice is your budget, your allowance. So we're going to take a little break and we're going to talk about all things sugar again and what it can do to you and what you can do to take your power back. We'll be right back.
In 2007, I was in an auto accident. A lady ran a red light and hit us, and I got a traumatic brain injury, and I got herniated and collapsed and compressed discs in my upper and lower back. I also fell down the stairs at work years ago, like 20-some years ago, and I had an ankle injury. The day that I was supposed to have my consult with the surgeon so that I could have surgery done on it, I had called over here and I got an appointment with Dr. Tammy. I was more excited to come in and have something actually done for it that didn't require surgery and a bunch of downtime. She's been using stem cells, and she put the stem cells in my ankle the first time, and Up until that, I had been completely on the cane. I couldn't get around without the cane because it was that bad. And she put an injection in the front and one on each side. And that night I was off the cane. By the time I got home, I didn't need the cane anymore, and I haven't used it since. And my back, where I've got all the disc issues and things, I haven't had any pain in it. It's been awesome. Yes, I just got my first dose on Friday, and today is Tuesday. And after the accident, my brain was so hot. Inside my head was always hot, and that contributed a lot with the headaches. And after I got the stem cells on Friday, my head is so cool, and the inside is cool, and I just feel so enlightened and awake, just more alert all the time. And it's like they keep working for 3 months, and I'm just so excited to see, okay, in 3 months, if it's this different and amazing already, what's it going to be in 3 months?
Hi, welcome back to The Naked Doctor. I'm Dr. Tammy.
I'm Dr. Debbie.
We are talking about sugar today.
Sugar.
And it's so crazy because, you know, as I do my preparation for these shows, I always think it's not hard to do. We're doctors, right?
Yeah.
We know a lot of stuff. It's crazy because a lot of this stuff, when it comes to nutrition, and I always say doctors sold out a long time ago, and, you know, myself included, I was trained in the medical way and the pharmaceutical companies and stuff. So it's really interesting. We're not really taught the science of the underlying cause of disease.
Right.
And sugar's huge. And we kind of pass it off as, oh yeah, we eat a lot of sugar, blah, blah, blah. But this is the specifics, a little bit of the nerdy science of what are you actually doing and creating that mindfulness a little bit for you.
And how do you address it? Like you sort of touched on conventional medicine and sort of like the inclination to, this is your field, is to diagnose a problem and prescribe. Mine as a doctorate in nursing practice is more on the other end of it. I deal with it once it comes to me in the anesthesia realm. But conventional medicine, as you said, didn't even have you looking at it from how do we prevent this necessarily.
Yeah. How do you understand it? So we're going to help you understand it a little bit. But I will tell you that as we were just sitting here before a break a little bit, and I had to literally get my calculator out and figure some stuff up. So how are you, if we've had medical training,
right,
how are you as a teacher or a pastor or whatever you are supposed to know all this science and then know exactly how bad the problem is? So,
and if 30 grams is a lot. 30 doesn't sound like a big number.
I don't even know what that is.
It's less than 100.
Yeah, right? So literally, when a pregnant woman gets something called a glucose tolerance test, what we do is we give her about 30 grams of Coca-Cola that's flat. So it looks like it's a medical substance. It's just a flat Coke. We trick them with it's flat, you know, instead of just giving them a soda. And then we check their insulin and their sugar levels every hour for a couple of hours and see if their pancreas can actually handle that.
Right.
So every time we talk about 25 to 30 grams of sugar, which is your daily budget for until you start to really have pre-diabetes or diabetes, just think about that when we talk about that. How much is 30 grams of sugar?
And it's considered a medical challenge.
A medical challenge.
So you're challenging yourself perhaps daily, perhaps every time you pull through a fast food place and get a soda.
Yep. I tell people every time you drink a soda, you know, you're looking at a glucose tolerance test. It's exactly
52 grams, I read.
I know, it's crazy.
That's
it's crazy.
a lot.
And you know, it's crazy. So I went to the dollar store when I went to get this stuff, and you can't even get a small can at the dollar store. This is a, what is this ounce-wise? 16-ounce can. They used to be 8-ounce cans. It's almost twice. It's huge. Look at it. I mean, it's pretty massive. And so, yeah, 52 grams of sugar in this. That's twice your daily budget. And that's not even having carbs or pasta or your dinner or a piece of bread or anything like that. So, so I'm at the dollar store buying this stuff, and this is crazy. I buy all this stuff, and I ask the lady when I'm checking out, she has it all in the bags. And I'm like, does anything look strange to you about what I bought? And she's like, no. And I was like, case in point.
There's the problem.
There's the problem. She didn't even notice. And then you were saying before break that you buy healthy vegetables and stuff, and they're like, man, you eat healthy.
You eat healthy. Or
so they didn't notice my sugar.
How do you make this? You know?
Yeah. Ingredients are
It's broccoli.
I put some butter on it. I don't know. I put it in the oven. They probably even ask you, what is this?
Yeah, what is this?
Yeah. So anyway, a couple interesting things is that we actually calculated how many grams of sugar are in 1 cup. Well, I'm going backwards what we said we were going to do, but this is a cup of sugar. So that is 200 grams. Now that you might go, well, that's a whole cup of sugar, 200 grams. But how much when you make Kool-Aid?
Kool-Aid, I was going to say.
Do you put in that?
Is it not 2?
Yeah, 2-liter thing.
2.
Yeah.
And then you put it out for
2.
your 4
And 2
kids
liters.
on the table.
So it's a cup a liter.
Yeah.
And what is a liter? Think of like a 2-liter Coke, right?
Exactly.
That's how much you
Right.
make. A 2-liter Coke is what you're making your Kool-Aid with. So literally there are 2 cups of sugar in there. So when you think about what a bottle of Coke looks like, I didn't even get a bottle of Coke, but that is like almost half sugar.
Right.
Literally. So, okay, let's look at a couple of different things. So Powerade, my son likes Powerade in the summer, and he's like, Mom, I know you don't want me to drink sodas, just get me a Powerade.
Right.
Drum roll, 21 grams per serving. And they say that there are 2.5 servings in this container. So if you drink this whole thing, which unfortunately he does when I let
53.
him have one of these. Yep.
53.
Yep.
Something like that.
So almost half a cup. So we said this is 200. So that's about a 4th cup of sugar. 4th cup of
Right
sugar
there.
is what you're getting right here. Okay, so I thought this was interesting. I thought, well, a little bit of sweet tea, because I do kind of preach at my patients sometimes about sweet tea. This is 1 serving actually, and it's 42 grams.
Oh my goodness. I wouldn't expect that.
Yep. And then we send our kids to school with Raisin Bran Crunch, and I'm embarrassed to say this is actually from my house. This wasn't one thing in the bag. But this is for every 3 tablespoons of cereal. It's 1 tablespoon of sugar, so it's a
Or
1 to
much
3
larger
ratio.
bowl than that.
Yeah, so 1 serving of this in sugar is 28 grams. And what is a serving? It's a cup. So literally a serving is a cup. So you're looking at
The
28
words
grams of
raisin
sugar.
and bran have tricked you into
Exactly,
buying
right. Raisins and bran and those little sugary raisins. So anyway, and then we send our kids to school on this, and then what do we expect? You know, brain fog, crashes, depression, mood problems, and
that. Hyperactivity. in the morning.
hyperactivity. Yeah, and then we want to drug them, and yeah, it's crazy. So it makes no sense. All right, they're saying it's time for a little break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about what is a tablespoon, what is a gram, how do you measure that in very relative terms, and get our little calculator out just a little bit. We'll be right back with the Naked Doctor. Hi, welcome back to the Naked Doctor. I'm Dr. Tammy.
I'm Dr. Debbie.
We have a great show, the Sugar Show today, and all the scary things about sugar. So we're trying to scare you so you'll stop eating sugar. But actually, we do need some sugar. We need some carbohydrates to make our bodies run. It's just part of who we are. It's just part of the volume of intake for energy that we use. Just not as much as
Energy
we're
and
doing.
longevity.
So we're going to go back and talk a little bit of numbers and a little bit more nerdy science, and it's just crazy because I literally had to get my phone out with my calculator and think about what is that, and if we had to do that, how do we expect you to do that, right? You have your own things that you're good at, and sitting there calculating grams and
Right.
metrics and all that. So anyway, a lot of people will say, well, I eat artificial sweeteners. I'm trying to get around sugar, I have diabetes, whatever the case may be, and they're trying to be good. And so I've told people for a while that stevia or Truvia are plant-based, and if you're going to do something, it's better to do this than nothing. The NutraSweets and those things are they're poison.
Truly
They were
are.
actually created during when they were studying like germ warfare and chemical warfare.
Saccharin.
Yeah, and how anybody thought to taste that and say, oh, that tastes sweet?
Who was that first guy?
Who was that first guy?
Someone with a real strong sweet tooth.
Yeah, I guess so. So anyway, so I bought some stevia when I was buying all this sugar. I don't think the girl at the dollar store even noticed I had stevia in the middle of all this sugar. But anyway, it has dextrose. And remember, when we went through all the hidden sugars, dextrose is actually one on the list. So here you are, you're buying some stevia, and they passed a law not too long ago that you have to actually put on the label added sugars. Right. So when you look at this, it says 0 sugar, but then you see dextrose and it says less than 1 gram of added sugars. So what is less than? 0.99?
And what's a gram?
And what's a gram? Exactly.
So many questions.
So we're going to talk about a gram of sugar. And so what we have is 1 sugar cube. Remember, we used to have sugar cubes to put in your coffee. Now we just put so much in there. Do we even do cubes anymore?
It's at fancy coffee shops.
Fancy.
Every now and then.
Okay, fancy.
If you want to go fancy, you'll get a cube.
So 1 cube is 1 teaspoon, or one of those little packs of sugar. And a teaspoon has 4 grams of sugar in it. So you can kind of think, let's use the 25 rule. 25 to 30 grams of sugar, how many teaspoons would that be? So we'd actually literally have to do, the math on that is about 6 to 9 teaspoons, right? So you think about what you put in your coffee or what you put in something or how many teaspoons are in something. So the visual, a cup of sugar was, remember, 200 grams. So as you're kind of thinking through that, how is that important? I usually just say, let's go by 25 to 30 grams of sugar. Now we can talk about what is a carbohydrate. You can have more carbohydrate because the more complex the sugar, which just means sugar molecules attached, the more carbohydrate you have versus straight up sugar, you have some fiber in there.
Right.
Which slows the
Your body
glycemic
utilizes
index.
it differently, right? You don't get the spikes and the outflux of insulin. You're not wearing your pancreas out quite so quickly.
Yeah, the sugar didn't, that glycemic index didn't hit that blood quite so fast.
Right.
And less likely to have the crash, although I do know when I have significant carbohydrates too, bread or something like that,
Big bowl of pasta.
Yeah.
There's a reason you want a nap later.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Can you remember when athletes, and I can remember doing this, would carb load? And that's because they're going to use it immediately. They're not going to let it sit and store it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so carb loading to go to our office job or to drop our kids off at school is not a great idea.
Yeah, no. And I think of at lunch, what I'm going to have sometimes in the office, how that's going to affect my day.
How you're
Seeing
gonna feel.
patients, my brain fog, if I want to take a nap, that's not going to be productive.
I'm going to send you lunch on the day I'm coming in, so I'm sure you're all sharp.
Yeah, some veggies would be nice.
Yes.
I actually love spinach.
Yes.
But it's if someone else prepares it for me, that's kind of my thing. Yeah. So when you think about what those simple sugars are, basically what you said, you want to avoid the white ones. So if you're going to go with bread or anything bleached or white, it's going to be those complex carbs, but there's still going to be less molecules of sugar, so they're going to break down differently. So maybe like corn or something like that, that's got the fiber, and the more molecules of sugar attached, the harder it's going to be to break down.
A corn tortilla versus a flour tortilla will go a long way.
Yeah.
Corn also has sugars that metabolize a little differently.
And one of the ways we want to help you empower yourself is through education. So on the last segment that we have, we're going to tell you those 3 ways that you can take your power back. But one of them is to basically just through that understanding of, what you just said. Substitution and things like that. So high fructose corn syrup fructose is only 5% different than glucose, but what are you eating it in? Right. And it's in everything. So they are sweetening everything. And I think that's one of the good points too is, and one of the things we're going to talk about in the last segment is when you take your power back, what do you do after you eat sugar? How do you utilize it the best? So we're going to talk about that.
Be aware of how you feel after it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about labels just a little bit. We already kind of did the Dr. Pepper and the sweet tea, and we talked about the apple juice. So one of the other things, what do we send our kids to school with? Cream of wheat.
Yeah,
We
this
love
one
our
makes me
cream
feel a
of
bit
wheat.
sad.
I know.
I'm a cream of wheat fan.
So I actually have not opened this. So this is one serving, one packet, which, you always want to have 2 packets when you make
Of
this
course.
because there's not much in
Not
there,
much in your
right?
bowl.
It's kind of like cereal. Whoever eats 1 cup of
Not-
cereal. I do that thing where this is true confessions. Like I'll play this game where if there's milk left, I have to put more cereal in there.
Yes.
So who knows even how much
What
I
really ends
have,
up
because
happening.
it's based on how well the cereal, the carbohydrates,
It's efficient
the
milk utilization. Though. You're just being irresponsible.
Exactly. See, and those are the excuses we make.
I know.
It
It's
is.
easy.
Even us who have this awareness. And so the sugar in here is 21 grams. And they actually list the fibers and the breakdown of sugars and added sugars. So you just have to read labels, unfortunately. And there's a great app called MyFitnessPal, and you can go on there and you can look up sugar content in a baked potato. We were talking about how much does a baked potato have.
That's a tricky one.
Yeah. So.
Well, and are you going to put sugar on top of your cream of wheat or milk?
Yeah, exactly. Or, raisins or cranberries, all the little things
right.
you like in there. Yeah, absolutely. So where do people consume their sugar? There's a couple different areas, but 33% of our sugar consumption in Americans per day comes from soft drinks. It's almost a third
And
of our
that's such
sugar
an easy
allowance.
fix.
Such an easy fix. When you look at the grocery store aisles and you just see aisles and aisles and aisles of sugar,
Soda.
it's just crazy. And then, the rest of it is consumed through our food and through milk or anything else that we have as well. So when we come back, we're going to talk about how you know you have a problem and 3 ways that you can take your power back in the war against sugar. We'll be right back.
In 2007, I was in an auto accident. A lady ran a red light and hit us, and I got a traumatic brain injury, and I got herniated and collapsed and compressed discs in my upper and lower back. I also fell down the stairs at work years ago, like 20-some years ago, and I had an ankle injury. The day that I was supposed to have my consult with the surgeon so that I could have surgery done on it, I had called over here and I got an appointment with Dr. Tammy. I was more excited to come in and have something actually done for it that didn't require surgery and a bunch of downtime. She's been using stem cells, and she put the stem cells in my ankle the first time, and up until that I had been completely on the cane. I couldn't get around without the cane because it was that bad. And she put an injection in the front and one on each side, and that night I was off the cane. By the time I got home, I didn't need the cane anymore, and I haven't used it since. And my back, where I've got all the disc issues and things, I haven't had any pain in it. It's been awesome. Yes, I just got my first dose on Friday, and today is Tuesday. And after the accident, my brain was so hot. Inside my head was always hot, and that contributed a lot with the headaches. And after I got the stem cells on Friday, my head is so cool, and the inside is cool, and I just feel so enlightened and awake, just more alert all the time. And it's like they keep working for 3 months, and I'm just so excited to see, okay, in 3 months, if it's this different and amazing already, what's it going to be in 3 months?
Hi, welcome back to the Naked Doctor. I'm Dr. Tammy.
And Dr. Debbie.
We promised you the 3 ways to take your power back, and one of the ways that you know that you have problems is chronic brain fog, inflammation, pain, those crashes after you eat a significant amount of sugar. Now you know how much sugar you're supposed to have or not supposed to have. And so number one is lots of protein. Just really load up on protein before you start going into sugar. Maybe skip dessert if you can.
Or a small bite.
Or a small bite, yeah, just a small bite. Drink lots of water. Hydrated cells are more utilized cells. And if you drink a lot of water as well, you'll feel full and might maybe not do as much. And then also exercise after you eat. That's what we know the bodybuilders and the exercisers do. They carb load, but they're exercising to burn it.
Utilize.
So if you're gonna lay around like you have that Thanksgiving meal, don't do that. Get up and take a walk. And the last thing we want to leave you with is my shameless plug for Carb Melt. Carb Melt actually works for breaking down carbohydrates in the stomach, those complex carbs into simple sugars so they don't get stored as fat. So check us out at carbmelt.com. Check us out at thenakeddoctor.com. We're also on Facebook and also under Dr. Tammy on Facebook. You can ask us questions and tell us show ideas that you'd like to see. We hope you have a fabulous week and that you've been empowered today and learned a little bit. We love you very much and we'll see you back here next week on The Naked Doctor.
See you next time.